5, or by the time you reach um your 25th seal, right? By the time you reach your 25th seal, uh you should have a consistent farming build already. And so the one thing that 25 is going to be quite frustrating, so you want to leave 25 in whatever order you're doing. And believe it or not, if you go through the map, which we will go through shortly, that 25 is almost like you can put it, you can reassure yourself that it is not something like truly important, because by that time it's negligible. uh it's a negligible seal, and hopefully, uh looking through the costs of these offerings, that you would actually see that. And then we have these primordial ashes stuff, okay? And so, um actually, let's hold, and I want to bring up another thing. I didn't actually make this yet. I need to upload that real quick before I continue. So give me one moment, because we're now reaching to uh the one little bit of thing here that's really interesting, because um season 27 PTR. So before season 27, before this season, we uh well, sometimes you want to like think of what possibilities of seasonal themes there would be. And so you have to like find a way to like um think of what stuff might actually happen. And I've thought about that before, about this little thing that we're gonna talk next. Let me bring that up here. So I'm gonna bring this up because this is stated back in like, I guess, August or July, whichever. I'm just so confused by dates because I normally have to deal with both the written format. But anyway, so here, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because season 27 brought in the angelic crucibles in a way that was about 10% of what I thought would have been season 27. That now these primordial ashes are also similar, and I believe uh, Rex also has had the video from a long, long time ago about this kind of thing, and so it's nothing original. But like what I mentioned um, last year, uh, before season 27 PTR, was that there could be a chance to salvage, like, let's say Innas, for example, and you have so many non-ancient Innas pieces that you don't use because they're all just rolled really badly. And so as you're salvaging, let's just say there's a 2% chance or whatever percent, really small percent chance to get a salvaged consumable, such that it lets you go to the cube to um, turn something better for that specific set. So let's just say that you're salvaging Innas, then you salvage your salvage consumable is related to Innas, and then you can turn it to primal um, after a certain amount. But my friends, namely, for example, Dark Dragon and uh, one or two other friends as well, they've thought about the same thing, Gazric as well, where uh, well, everyone has thought of it because it would be super broken if they didn't double up the requirements as you go along, right? And so the first primal being like, let's just say, well, initially I was thinking about either 20 or 50, but then the next one would double up as they mentioned, both Dark Dragon, Gazric, and even some others have mentioned this to double up the 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 requirement in the recipe. And so anyway, now that we have these primordial ashes, um, it just seems similar, very similar. Okay, in a way. Now we go back and understand what these primordial ashes are and what you can do with that, right? So at the blacksmith, you can now salvage a primal item for 55 primordial ashes. We have also added a primal item recipe to the Kindness Cube, which, you know, like in that in that in this text, I didn't really say that there's a recipe, but with a mentioning of some new consumable after salvaging, well, technically I did. I did say that in the parentheses there. So in my first paragraph, it says, so you know, I was talking to multiple different friends of mine over the course of the past month back in July or August, okay, that um that how I was talking about turning primal consumable that I was theory crafting a cube recipe for. So even from that first little bit, I have mentioned before that there might have going to be a primal item recipe to the Kanai's cube, and so that is why I took some time to bring this Discord message up, because this message was meant for season 27 PTR before the 27 PTR came up. So I was 10% accurate for season 27, thematically speaking, regarding a consumable. And then we can bring back this again. Now you add another 10% to it because it's trying to keep season 27 um, sort of to be a thing. So when you start chaining this, my theory crafted of a cube recipe for salvaging useless primals, especially set items, that if you salvage the set that you're looking at wanting to upgrade, that you will be able to um, anticipate yourself being able to potentially get quickly those respective set pieces for the build that you're playing, right? But then the only issue we have here that I didn't really solve at the time before season 27 PTR was that what about regular legendaries? Well, obviously, a simple solution is, you know, just an overall consumable that covers roughly everything except for crafted items, right? Like the ones like all guilds and stuff like that. So aside from that, I still said that, I was theory crafting a cube recipe for such a consumable that was popping up in season 27. But it was a totally different thing. So I was only 10% right about a consumable, but then the recipe now popped up, and it was about time that we get, you know, it's about time that we get a an additional recipe, or it could have been a reworked recipe, because a lot of times we've been getting rework on items. It's not going to be surprising if they decide to rework um, one of the recipes, but I would think that, you know, a primal recipe of some sort from consumables would make sense, because we always have at the end so much, materials, in most cases, where we could have had, 1,000 souls for something. For example, you can exchange 1,000 souls for a primal that, potentially speaking. So, for example, I'm playing the LOD Wave of Light build, right? And the helmet is something I want to reforge, right? But let's just say I don't want to do reforge legendary because it's really really hard, right? So then you spend like 1,000 souls, or maybe like even 5,000 souls to get it to primal, which then matches up with this season 28 um, notes so far, at least, regarding salvaging to gain materials to work towards, more primals that you actually want from useless ones, right? So my this little bit here is now added another 10% mat accuracy from season 27 towards season 28 PTR, where now I'm 20% more accurate as to something potentially like this would have happened. So I'm 20% um accurate now with what I had thought for season 27 is only one season later anyway. So I had the right idea, with the fact that a newer cute recipe for primals would be popping up sooner or later, and it's nothing original, but I just thought to add that I have had mentioned it before, and so that is why I brought up this Discord paragraph, uh, regarding this. And obviously, again, like I said, some of my friends like Dark Dragon and Gazrick have mentioned that it should cost double each time. So then it makes it really difficult um, to turn something into primal. Even though RNG of primal, you still have to worry about the primary stats that you want. So for example, yesterday I got um, my Carles primal finally as a drop, and it only rolled 24 AD, 24% area damage, and I tried, using it with like 3 or 4 change of items, and I still lost damage. So even after spending, let's say, 1,000 Forgotten Souls or 5,000 Forgotten Souls, if it would have been something like that, to not add an additional consumable, um, in such a case, in order to play upon primal stuff, is that, even 5,000 souls would still have to have that RNG, in order to get very lucky. But of course, that just makes the RNG side even stronger. So this specific thing is giving um, both sides of how dedicated will be able to get what they want, if they play more goal oriented. Okay, so that's it about that. All right. So before we go to the skill changes, of and class stuff, let's go back to the roadmap, or the seals, And I while I was looking at the roadmap, with I should just add a text box here instead. So my Y should be 16 or 17. So my Y should be 16 or 17 for Y. Whatever. So I should correct Y to 16 or 17 because of the AC potion needing both together. At first, I thought the roadmap was getting to the last road, like the last row to AC fastest using one line, because the lines look like you can speed your way down to like the fastest way to get to row 8, right? But in fact, AC needs two. So it changes that to 16 or 17 first instead. So Y is 16 or 17, and then N is 18, and so on. And so it changes my mapping a little bit differently. But other than that, other than Y, I think everything looks um, reasonable, especially X. X saves a lot of time, you know, at the blacksmith as well. And also when you're doing Battlefield of Eternity, I can't stop talking about X. How good X is. X is so good because when I do Battlefield of Eternity, I'm not only picking up white materials, I'm picking up yellows, I'm picking up blues. I'm actually picking up like whites and then blues in priority. So whites first, then blues, then yellows if it's one box items. And if I can stay and for me personally, when I farm Battlefield of Eternity, I have to go back twice. Normally speaking, I have to go back twice. So that is why I feel like X is so crazy because it saves me so much time. It saves me the town for Battlefield of Eternity, especially Battlefield of Eternity and other maps that involve with the armor racks and weapon racks and stuff like that. So X is super like one of the better quality of life I feel um, for me personally is X. Even though we want pets to pick up even actually better stuff, which is what is it? Where is it? Where is it at? The the actual thing that we want pets to pick up. I think that's P, right? It's not pets picking it up, but P. Now P has an issue. So I know I'm jumping ahead now, but now we need to talk about like actual um greater rift. And the reason why I want to jump to P um right away is because especially what I'm doing for my well even my friends pushing the 150 especially hold up barb and stuff like that, you know, the strategy to playing the pylon plays, right? To make the plans that you need, you want to avoid picking up stuff, the progress orbs. You want to time them correctly. So P is like situational speaking is really bad. P is like strategically poor. P is strategically poor. However, P is really good for speeding. If you are like a player that speeds like the whole way up until a certain paragon before you push, right? Then P is just excellent because now, even this season when I talked about the Shadow Impale, you know, if you have a very low pickup radius on Shadow Impale, you have to do extra strafing just to pick up the orbs. Or if you play a monk, you have to do an extra dash to pick up the orbs, etc., right? So P is really good for speed farming, greater rifts especially, because we assume that. And in fact, if P was also meant for challenge rift, oh man, the rank 1 and rank 2 or even rank 3 person will be massively like battling each other with P. If P was actually somehow also regarded into challenge rift for some reason, oh man, the top 10 will be fighting each other because the progress orbs picked up automatically is like time saving because the orbs fly so far apart sometimes and also not in the right direction of moving straightforwardly that every little bit helps 1 to 2 seconds, or I guess half a second. But if you fight like 10 elites, right, that is at least 5 seconds of the time, which splits the ranks apart. 5 seconds is a lot because it could be one mistake, or it could be the timing of killing the Rift Guardian incorrectly, meaning that your skill rotation suddenly fell off. Like the multiplier skill fell off, so then you missed out on the time for the Rift Guardian for P, such that the time saved from P really helps. So P is really useful for speedrunning. All right, I honestly, to cover the legendary potions, I can, but I think it's pretty much AC is like the biggest one, right? The next biggest is the AA. So AC is very interesting because uh, making pylon plays is what we have been doing, but now we can use the potion gameplay to do what we are doing with pylon plays. And so AC changes the whole dynamic of that. So there's that, right? And then AA is kind of like bringing back soul shards. If for those who have played soul shards with the like the shroud or pull of shroud or whatever, the like those powers, AA is what that is. And so not only you can have Oculus Ring, but also that you're speeding up so fast. Okay, so that's covering AC and AA. AB is like, I'm a defensive player. AB is cool and all, but generally speaking, it's between AC and AA, depending on your playstyle. All right, so now we have gone the roadmap pretty much. I mean, I'm not gonna go through like the last several numbers between what is it, 20 like 22 to 26 or something like that. In terms of K and Q or something, um, I prefer K and Q being together as a last little topic about the roadmap is that K and Q. K is increased damage to elites by 20%. That's like all guilds, like I said before. And then Q is reduced damage taken from elites by 25%. So that's basically K and Q are like all guilds. So you get all guilds. So eventually you want K and Q before some of the rest. All right. Let's go back to our let's go back to the PTR notes. Let's go back to the PTR notes. Now we've done pretty much everything. Oh, I guess 25. I guess we'll just quickly go through 25. So by the time you get to the 25, hopefully you're not leaving something important for 25, because Staff of Herding is like a chore unless you really want it. And I mean, if there's anything to do with getting to the last step, which is the AD, the final, then you need to do 25, unfortunately. So that's like the thing that stalls it before I completely get to the skill changes. All right, so Monk, combination strike passive skill. So previously it was increasing by 10 for 10% for 3 seconds. Now it says each spirit generator you use increase the damage of your other spirit generators by 100% for 10 seconds. So they're basically bringing that dual generator build that I actually kept with Eye of the Storm. Like the helmet Eye of the Storm is pretty rare. I would say in terms of the rarity, um, I would say that Eye of the Storm is pretty rare. The rolls are tremendously difficult for what it is, different from the gaze, the token gaze for the Wave of Light. The Wave of Light helmet is so difficult to roll properly. Um, but if you haven't seen Eye of the Storm, while the number of lines are different, Eye of the Storm actually rolls very difficult to be good. And I also prefer using Eye of the Storm for the dual generator. But it is it might not be actually the right move, but I just like to talk about the Eye of the Storm um, when they brought up the dual generator build again. Crippling Wave. They're changing stuff on there for different runes doing different things, extending um, the crowd control as well as additional damage for a longer duration instead of instead of the 3 seconds. I think they're extending everything to 10 seconds, kind of like streamlining the duration a bit. So it's kind of like what is it? Your like while your focus and restraint are like what 5 seconds and stuff, these are like 10 seconds. So it just lets you kind of like time between your gameplay, um requiring less carpal tunnel or something like that, because the number of skills you have to press, the actions per minute or whatever, is like a huge thing for dual generator, for example. And so this duration extension is really helpful to reduce carpal tunnel. Item changes. Oh, funny. I mentioned frenzy, um, but I was mentioning frenzy for the letter U, right? You know, you click your own death breaths a lot, so it's good for practicing your frenzy gameplay.